I do it each and every time. And I don't be meaning to, but I yawn. It's just the way that I have to like get going. Hey everybody, what's going on? It is me, Sherelle. We're here. It's all relative. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. So a couple of things. Do you know I almost put perfume on for you guys and you can't smell me, right? But I just feel like, I put the makeup on because, honey, let me tell you, about 40, how old am I? 43. You know what? I get now how my mom can be like, Rel, tell me how old I am because I forget. I'm so used to saying 42, but I'm actually 43. And 43, honey, these bags, you know what I'm saying? They be out here. But Tyra told, I don't know about y'all, but she told me a long time ago when she had her show that Black women tend to get the dark circles underneath their eyes. So it just is a thing. It's not necessarily related to age. So, I'm just out here, but I promise you, I ain't go to work looking like this. I put these earrings on and slapped a little, lip gloss and everything. And so I almost put some perfume on for y'all, but just know I'd have been smelling good and everything like that there. So, hey guys, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me, right? So again, it's all relative with me, your girl, Sherelle, otherwise known as Relly. And so what it is, what do we do? I share with you different topics about things that I see that are going on in the world, sometimes my life, and I use myself as an example and share because, again, I feel like if I've gone through it or I'm going through it, then maybe you guys might know someone who is going through it or you're going through it yourself, and perhaps that can be of assistance to you. So that's that. What are we talking about today? We are still in the absentee parent series, right? So first things we talked about is absentee parents. What does that mean? We talked about how that can affect the child, right? Like in young adulthood, in childhood, in young adulthood. Then we talked about how it can affect the present parent, the one that, sticks around and everything like that there. And today we are talking about what it means and how having an absentee parent can show up in your adult life, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let me get this good quote out. And so strength is not measured by the absence of challenges, but by our ability to rise above them, especially when we've had to navigate life's hurdles without the guidance and support of absentee parents. It's about finding the resilience within ourselves to heal, grow, and build a brighter future despite the odds stacked against us. And honey, there's some odds stacked against us when we don't have both parents. But, right, we're going to talk about all of that and how we can overcome them. But a few little housekeeping things, right? Y'all, I got my nails done. You see it? Yes, she got her nails done because last week I was looking a little raggedy. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't do it on purpose, but I was just outside because life be life and I ain't have time. Do you guys like to get your nails done? I don't find it relaxing. Sometimes people are like, oh, that's self-care. It's not self-care. It's not. I got to go in. I'm stressed. I'm pressed about, the time and I don't want to wait and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? And also, I need to get my hair done. But let me tell you something. I've had these braids in since like July 24th. Honey, we are hanging on in here. I got a lot of new growth. And so thankful for that. The hair is growing, right? And yeah, I let these edges be. I'm not slicking nothing down. I just can't. You know what I'm saying? These are, adult edges and I ain't got it. And I used to know how to swoop them down, but I don't know. I can't do it anymore. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lot. I ain't got time for that. That's the whole purpose of having braids. I want to get up and go in the morning time. Another thing, y'all, I miss church. Now, let me tell you, I didn't grow up in church. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess you could say I was agnostic growing up, right? Like, I just questioning. I was just unsure. I didn't know. And my mother would play these gospel songs and my grandmother would play them. And then I'd have to go to church and I'd be like, ugh, right? It was just uncomfortable. I didn't get it. And then I got married. Well, no, then I met a friend and I started going to church with her. And then I got married and then church became my whole life. And I raised my children in it. But I have not been to like church in a really long time. And sometimes, right, I went to a Pentecostal church. Sometimes I just want to, let a little praise out. You know what I'm saying? I want to hold on to the pew. You know what I'm saying? I want to work this thing out. I want to talk to the Lord. I want the Lord to talk back to me. You know what I mean? I just want to fall out in the spirit. I want to listen to the music. I want to wave my hands. I want to cry a little bit. I want to turn my face to the wall, you know what I'm saying? And just commune, me and the big guy. You know what I mean? Sometimes I want to do that. And I was talking to my sister and she was like, so just go to church, but you know what I mean? You don't know. And because I struggle sometimes with the teachings of the Bible. So, but, we have to eat the fish and leave the bones. So, we got to take what's for us and then, we got to leave the rest, which is fine. And I'm fine to do that. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I could really let loose like that, amongst the strangers. You understand? So those are the things that are going on. How was your weekend? I didn't do much. You know what I mean? I just kind of lounged around. You guys, I am a football fan. I never thought that I would see the day that I would be into football, but I'm into football. I just thought I'd let you guys know that. And so I totally watched, who was it? It was the Giants. They played the Cowboys. I watched that game and, they look like the bad news bear out there. And I'm going to tell you this. If I was the coach, I'd be whooping Mr. Jones' ass on the sideline. Like, I'd have just took my belt off and I'd be whooping him. Because let me tell you something. We are not ever going to go into halftime 26-0. And you're a professional. He'd have sat down the rest of the game. I could tell you that. And then everybody's talking about Aaron Rodgers, right? And he got I think we calculated it. I think he got something like 36 million to make 4 plays. But listen, I watched Hard Knock Life or Hard Knocks, School of Hard Knocks or whatever, with the Jets. And I'm just so happy for little Xavier Gibson. I was so glad they didn't cut him. That's right. A rookie right there. So I'm all ready. I'm ready for, don't we got a game tomorrow? Ain't it Thursday night football? Don't we got something like that? Ain't the Chiefs playing somebody? I'm not that much. You know what I'm saying? I'm not following just yet, but I'm ready. Throw it at me and we could probably have a conversation. You know what I mean? I know my quarterbacks and everything like that there. So I just don't have a team. I just have to get a feeling. You know what I mean? I have to feel them out and see what's the goings on. Anyway, I got all of that housekeeping out. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. So let's just get on into this thing real quick. Okay, good. So again, we've been talking about absentee parents. We've been talking about how it affects our kids. And so again, I chose this topic because it seemed that so many people had this experience, and I thought, well, let's get into it. So again, we talked about how it affects children. We talked about the present parent, and now today we're talking about how it shows up in our lives in adulthood. And I think sometimes we talk about these things, but we never really address them. We don't really call them out, and we don't really talk about those things. And again, last week we talked about how it affects the present parent with hurt, anger, frustration, exhaustion, and disappointment, right? We feel all those things sometimes as the single parent who have partners that just choose not to engage with their children or to help us co-parent, right? Okay, there's that. And so today, again, we're talking about how it shows up in our adult lives. So I'm just going to run those things down for you, right? So it can show up as, and I'm just going to run down the list and then we'll go into it a little bit deeper. Okay, great. Difficulty forming healthy relationships, right? We can stay in unhealthy relationships for far too long. Abandonment, difficulty trusting others, for fear that they may leave us again, right? So we sometimes tend to push people away before they get a chance to leave, okay? Being overly self-reliant, again, because we don't trust people. You can't take care of me the way I know how to take care of me, so don't worry about it. I got it. Lack of motivation and direction, because sometimes then we're just stuck and stagnant. Low self-worth, self-doubt, self-criticism, validation seeking from other places outside of ourselves, rejection and feelings of emptiness, codependence, and And we find people that are emotionally unavailable, right? Rebellious behavior, sometimes due to anger, and also substance abuse. And so, I wondered, has any of this resonated with any of you guys out there? And if so, we can talk about it. And so I'll check the list off of the things, like, as I was doing this, and I was like, ooh, right? I did a little introspection and reflection, right? A little self-assessment. I was like, ooh, okay. And I checked that one off, and this one and that one. So I'll share. I've talked about extensively the fact that, like, I have suffered from having low self-esteem. And again, not blaming my dad. I'm just saying him not being there, me not understanding why he wasn't there. I then internalized that as a child, and certain situations in my life just continued to water the seed that I had planted. And before I knew it, it had consumed me. And I didn't know how or why. So it took a long time for me to figure that out. But I got it, and boundary setting has commenced. All right. Okay. And so I also realized that I'm overly self-reliant. And again, like, nobody, let me tell you something. No. You can't take care of me like I know how to take care of me. You understand? So don't worry about it. I got it. And that also, I tend not to ask of people because I'm so self-reliant. And sometimes, right, showing up as the strong friend, as the strong person in the relationship, then they feel like, oh, don't worry about it. She got it. You know what I mean? And I don't even think to ask those things. I don't even think to ask, like, hey, can you, would you, are you willing to? I don't tend to ask for help because, again, I got it. And not only do I got it, if someone else is struggling around me, then I got it for them too. Because, other people don't got it for you. I got it for you, right? And so that's something that I am working on. I'm trying to learn how to put it down. And I talked about this. I realized that, like, now, before it was people pleasing. And again, I needed to show people that, like, I can do it, right? So that's why I would do it. And now it's not even so much that it's people pleasing, because I'm over that, okay? It's out of habit now. I'm just so used to saying, yes, I got it. Bring it on, throw it on my plate. I'll take care of it. And so what I'm now focusing on is becoming much more tuned into myself. And I need to take a break. And I need to say, hold on, when someone asks something of me, and I have to say, instead of my automatic response just being yes, what I have to do is I've got to take a minute and take a breath and go, let me get back to you. And I really need to process how I can fit that into my life. It may be too much, right? Like it could just be, no, I just don't have capacity. And so I'm just so used to doing and going that I'm never worried about capacity. I just go, I got it. But I really don't got it, because when I have reached capacity, the very first thing that's on my list to take off is weight loss. Like when I'm on a weight loss journey, because y'all, losing weight is really hard work. I don't know if anybody ever tried. And I promise you, I've been thinking about the shot, right? Like the Ozempic, like wanting to talk to my doctor, like, hey, doctor, because I'm technically obese, although y'all do know that the BMI chart is rooted in racism and it's a whole bunch of nothingness, right? I just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay. However, again, but I'm worried about the Ozempic face. And I talked to my good girlfriend, she's the one that is all into the surgeries and stuff. So she watches and she knows. And I'm like, what does this mean? How is this going to work? And I'm vain enough that, yes, I am worried about, like, my face looking droopy. Like, I don't want to be out here looking like a crackhead. You know what I'm saying? Face all sunken in. So there's good and bad weight loss. And also, I also feel bad because some people who are suffering from diabetes, like, there's a shortage now because we all run around here thinking about this easy weight loss, shot. So I'm not doing the weight loss, but again, it's a lot of hard work. And sometimes I'm burnt out and I don't have capacity for it. So therefore, that's the first thing to go off my plate. So I have got to be more mindful about how many things I'm putting on my plate. Okay. All right. Excuse me. And then I can also say on my list that I have absolutely gotten involved with people who were emotionally unavailable. And of course, I didn't realize at the time that they were emotionally unavailable and I was attracted to them being emotionally unavailable. I'm just saying, like, that's my pattern. And I'll say it's familiar, right? Because my dad is emotionally unavailable and not his fault. You know what I'm saying? It just is who he is, and that's just how he is. He has very little capacity for emotional engagement. And I'm okay with that, but I'm just telling you that that's how it shows up for me, that I find myself involved with people and I go, by golly, look at this here. You see this? You see this? They ain't available. You know what I mean? But again, because I'm a doer, because I'm self-reliant, I never look to them to fulfill me emotionally, right? In my relationship. Also, because I have friends. We're going to talk about that next week, but we'll dive in just a little easy weensy today. I don't need my man to be everything, okay? But again, it's different from him wanting to engage, right? And not engaging at all. Two totally different things. And I find myself with men who aren't checking for me emotionally. And again, sometimes because I'm so self-reliant that to them it looks like she got it and she don't need it. So they don't even think to offer in that way. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the case. And I can't say specifically if that's from my dad not being emotionally available. I'm just saying these are things that I've noticed in my life that possibly having, daddy issues might have shown up in my adult life this way. And then lastly, the thing that, because we open around here, and I share with you, I was sexually active. I was, and I mean, yes, sexually active, but maybe, let me see how I can frame this. I think I was very open to giving myself sexually because I felt like that's all I had to offer, right? And so I want you to stay around. Okay, is it going to take sex in order for you to stay around? All right, I will do that. That's fine, right? And that I know for sure, right, stemmed from not feeling like I had the attention, affection of my dad. So, there's that. Now, look here now. I done learned a lesson. I done learned a thing or two about a thing or two. So now that's not on the table. Because let me tell you something. If you don't want to be around here, please hit the door. All right. And thank you. So those are things that I realize that I have experienced with having an absentee dad and how it showed up in my life as an adult. But I have since been able to address those things, and I do not suffer from those situations currently. Okay, all right. And so I thought that we'd maybe take a deeper dive into some of them. So difficulty forming healthy relationships. Well, how can we know sometimes what a healthy relationship looks like if we've never been in one? Right? And then sometimes we can stay in these unhealthy relationships because we feel like, oh goodness, I don't want them to leave, right? Sometimes the back and forth, the attention, even though it's negative, still feels good, right? Oh, I guess, they care about me because, they want to, kick down my door, or they're cheating, but they come back to me, right? Like it's a lot of those things, sometimes and I can only speak for myself as a young girl, sometimes as young girls, again, wanting the attention of, a man and not knowing that again, all attention isn't good attention, right? And so, and also if we haven't seen boundary setting, we don't know, you know what I mean? And we can carry those things and take them with us into our adulthood, you know what I'm saying? So that's really sometimes how it happens. It starts out in our teenage years and then it just continues because it's familiar, it's comfortable. You know what I'm saying? The devil I know, right, is better than the devil I don't know. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's like, well, he says he loves me and he keeps coming back to me, even though he's been with, all those other women sometimes, or he puts me on the back burner, but, he comes around to me eventually. So sometimes that's the way that it could show up in our adult lives. And abandonment, again, talking about having difficulty trusting others. I may not trust. And again, these aren't always conscious decisions that we're making. Oh, I can say with my conscious mind, I don't trust this individual to not hurt me. That may not be the case. A lot of these are subconscious things that are going on that we're not aware of, right? We are not aware of the way in which we're behaving or engaging in our relationships. And when relationships, I'm talking about sometimes even familial relationships, right? So we're not aware of it. Therefore, we can't fix it because we don't know that it's going on. But sometimes, again, the abandonment, the fear that we have, I don't want to feel this pain anymore. This person, my parent has hurt me. I don't want anyone else to hurt me. So, I will keep you away. I'll push you away sometimes, right? So sometimes people, they go, I don't like people. It's not that they don't like people, right? Some people, I guess, they're just not people. They're right. They're not into people. It can be too much stimulation being around people, right? But it's not that they don't like them, but sometimes what we don't hear is, I don't trust them. And I don't trust people because I've already experienced hurt previously and I don't want it to happen again. So I will push them away from me, right? So that there's a line. Don't cross this line, because then you can't hurt me. If you don't come around, then you can't hurt me. Again, we talked about being overly self-reliant, because again, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to treat me. I don't know. You treat me nice now, but will you always do that? Can I always count on you? You know what I mean? And sometimes people come into our lives and they're for a season, but we don't understand that. Sometimes, again, being younger and having these things happen, we carry it into our adulthood. And again, not anything that we're aware of, right? With our conscious mind in the forefront that we're really thinking about, that we can acknowledge. And sometimes we have a lack of motivation and direction. So we know those people, they're stagnant, right? And sometimes it feels like, well, my parent didn't care, so why should I care, right? You know what I mean? Or, well, I don't have anything, to prove to anyone, right? Like nobody's rooting for me. So who cares if I just, take my time? And sometimes we just get stuck, right? We just don't understand what our next thing should be. So sometimes that can happen as well. And again, low self-worth and self-doubt, right? Self-criticism, all of those things can take place. And that shows up, right, with seeking validation from others. Do you have trouble making decisions? Do you feel like you always need to check in with someone? What do you think? And what do you think? And, you can only do it if someone agrees, right? So sometimes that's how it can happen and show up in your life. And then rejection of feelings. I don't want to feel anything, right? So yeah, this person, they left, but so what? We say that externally, but internally we can feel really helpless and really hopeless sometimes. And sometimes, again, we just don't want to feel anything. Don't want to feel anything. And then we have codependence, right? Which also goes into the seeking of validation. And when we talk about codependence, I think that, we just say it and people are like, yeah. It's just that you depend on people and what's wrong with that? And nothing, right? Because I have people in my life, they're a part of my tribe. If I didn't have them, I'd be lost, right? But that's not a codependent relationship, because I can set boundaries with those individuals. My life will go on without those individuals, right? And I don't need them every step of the way. And so codependence, I wanted to really just talk about that for just a few minutes. And so it's being overly reliant on another person, often to an unhealthy degree. It's like being emotionally hooked or dependent on someone else for your happiness, your self-esteem, and your well-being, right? So if so-and-so doesn't tell you that you look good, then you don't know if you look good. No, right? The people in my tribe, honey, I know I look good. You understand? Right. Messy hair, bags under these eyes, crooked teeth, little eyebrows, but you know, I done penciled them in here. You know what I'm saying? So look at me. I got eyebrows and everything. However, I'll get back to the point, is that I am comfortable with myself, whether anybody likes it or not. You understand? Without makeup and all those other things. You know what I'm saying? I tease about wearing makeup, but I promise you, I was outside all day today, barefaced, bags and little eyebrows and crooked teeth, and it was all good. Okay? All right. This milkshake, it still brings the boys to the yard. Just gonna put that out there. Anywho. And so people in codependent relationships, they often are neglecting their own needs and desires in the process, right? So they put everybody else's needs first. And let me tell you, people in codependent relationships, you want to talk about having a hard time getting them away from one another. You want to talk about toxic sometime, because in relationships, sometimes you have a giver and a taker. And if you're a giver and you're with a taker, yikes. You know what I mean? Especially if you are codependent, that means you don't see yourself without this person. And that is very scary, right? Like, so, you know, there's that. And so those things, but also recognizing that codependency, that can take place in relationships. Because I swear, Mama D and Scrappy, honey, they got a codependent situation, because she stay in they damn business. He too old. I can't be with nobody's mama's boy. Like, no, thank you very much. Okay. Tell her to sit down somewhere. All right. So it can take place in familial relationships as well as romantic relationships, and it can definitely take place in friendships. Y'all saw Girlfriends, because Tony and Joan were absolutely in a codependent relationship, and it was sad sometimes, because I wouldn't have been Tony's friend. I'd have cussed her for filth a long time ago and probably stabbed her in her esophagus, but that's neither here nor there, because I don't condone violence. So listen, and again, next on the list is dealing with emotionally unavailable individuals. And that, again, is possible. Again, it's comfortable sometimes. If you grew up in a house where people were emotionally unavailable, then that's comfortable. And, you know, you may go to what is comfortable and stay in a situation that's not really healthy and that's not really good for you, right? So there's that. And sometimes rebellious behavior, because again, right, sometimes I'm angry that this parent isn't there. And again, sometimes, right, in our teenage years, developmentally, we are supposed to push the boundaries. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what our brains tell us to do. We start engaging in risky behavior. Like, that just happens. That's why parents talk about teenage years being from hell. They are. However, sometimes, right, we don't outgrow that. And sometimes it comes from a different place, which is anger, right? Again, sometimes it could be, well, this person, my parent doesn't care, so why should I? You know what I'm saying? And then we go out and we engage in the tomfoolery and the rebellious nature. Or sometimes because the parent is missing, you know, we feel like, you know, I'm the same. I could tell you, I had my kid at 17. And in my mind, I had done the worst thing. The only thing that, you know, my parents seemed to be concerned about was like, don't bring no babies in here. And I did. And I was still in high school when I did it. So in my mind, I was grown, right? Having a baby equated to adulthood, right? Because like, I am now responsible for someone. You know, you're responsible for me. I'm responsible for him. And so I'm an adult too. And so, you know, there was a lot of challenges during that time between me and my mother, because I saw myself as an adult. And again, not necessarily because my dad was in the house, just different situations, right? But maybe had he been in the house, there would have been, you know, different conversations that could have taken place. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just sharing with you what happened to me and how a time that I, you know, began to become rebellious. But that can happen. And then substance abuse. I don't know if we talked about that one. We don't want to feel this hurt and this pain. Sometimes it gnaws at you. You know what I'm saying? These conversations. Why am I not good enough? How come they're not there? And sometimes it just hurts. Because what people tend to do sometimes, what children tend to do sometimes, is that they romanticize their lives, right? And so they think, well, if my mother had been here, I wouldn't have gone through X, Y, and Z. If my father had been here, I wouldn't have this kind of life. So we romanticize a life that we don't know that we would have had, right? So it's imaginary. We have no idea what that would have been like because it's not our reality. And so we tend to romanticize that. And in doing so, right, we think, oh, my life sucks real bad now, but if this thing had been different, my life would be different and maybe it would have been better. And dealing with that sometimes is really hard, constantly thinking about what could have been, what should have been. That's hard. And so sometimes people don't want to feel that. And so they start, using drugs to numb the pain. And I can tell you that, from my training, they say that when you start to engage and use drugs, that you stop developing mentally. Right. And so sometimes, like I can tell you, I've got clients, maybe they're in their 50s, but they maybe started using drugs at 16. They're teenagers, which totally explains why they're having the temper tantrums that they're having when they don't get their way. Right. And because you're not dealing with the pain, because you're numbing it with the substance use, then you continue that. So now as an adult, you don't know how to deal with your emotions, right? You just got the basic, like, I'm mad, and then you go off because that's what you're used to. You know what I'm saying? That's what's worked for you in the past. And so that's a whole nother learning curve that has to take place when dealing with very complex issues. You know what I'm saying? When you become sober. So word to the wise is just don't do it. Okay? And when I say like substances, I'm talking about the hard stuff, like the legal stuff, the marijuana, it is legal and your girl indulges, you know what I'm saying? And a little alcohol ain't never hurt nobody, in moderation, because everything in moderation, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not telling anybody how to live. Like, listen, you want to do what you want to do, just go ahead and have at it. However, I'm just telling you that it's a slippery slope sometimes when you use these substances in order to numb pain and not feel it. Sometimes you just got to go through it and you're just going to have to, run to the emotion, to the fire, go through it, and then you'll be better for it. I promise you. So those are the things that, that can happen in your adult life, right? And so I can tell you that I have seen in my little short time, 43 years, that sometimes I see these young girls, honey, they engage in these, toxic relationships and shit. We see them all the time on the reality TV. You're like Krishan and Blueface, honey. And can we talk about Sexy Red? She's just as messed up as Krishan, honey. Like, she needs time on a couch, a couple of them. You know what I'm saying? I just saw today, poor little thing. She was like, the most romantic thing that someone ever did. A guy robbed someone for her for Valentine's. She said Valentine's Day. And he just gave her $13. But to her, it was really sweet. But also, she has been sexually assaulted and nobody's talking about this. Like, there seems to have been a lot of trauma, and I'm going to go with some neglect over there, and it's not being dealt with. And now she's out here singing about, her booty hole brown. And our kids are looking up to this. So, and ski and all this other stuff. And, I'm young enough, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to throw this thing in a circle, but I want to. So anybody out there that knows how to and wants to give your girl lessons, please, please, please hit me up. So I'm not saying it's not cool to do that, but I'm also saying that we've also got to pay attention to the other side of that, right? Just wanted to throw that out there. So what have we talked about today? We talked about a couple of things. So we talked about, right, how having an absentee parent, like actually pinpointing these things, how it can show up in our adult lives, in our relationships, and how it can affect us. And so now it's like, yeah, Sherelle, you told me all the bad stuff, but now how do I fix that? How do I change that for myself? And I'm glad that you asked, okay? So one thing that we've got to do, we have to get real about it, right? Like, you have to sit in this thing and it's okay, but you've got to acknowledge oh, I really am hurt, disappointed, embarrassed, frustrated, that my parent wasn't there, right? Like acknowledge the feeling, angry. After all of that, like I'm mad that they weren't there. I don't understand how they could choose anything else, how they could choose not to be a parent. You have to get real about that. Excuse me. Excuse me again. And you don't necessarily have to tell them, say it to your parent. We talked about that previously. So if you're interested in how to have that conversation or not have that conversation, then you can check out the previous videos. But you have to get real about that first, okay? And then, I think it's important to go and talk to someone, right? So like you need to go and talk to a therapist, right? And go, hey, I'm dealing with these things. I don't know how to process it. But you need to talk to someone else. And our friends aren't always equipped to help us, and they mean well. So let me say that they mean well. They don't mean you any harm, but they don't have the skill set to be able to help you in some of the situations that in situations that you're going through and experiencing, because I can only give you from my lens, you know what I'm saying, and what worked for me. And what worked for me might be a very specialized approach. And I say that as a friend, right? So there's that. Possibly a pastor. I'm okay with you going to your pastor for help only if that pastor is knowledgeable about counseling. Because it's one thing to go to your pastor and they can give you biblical advice, but that doesn't mean that it's always the best advice, right? If they're not trained in how to help you, then it might not be the best, is all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to know how to find a therapist, or find a therapist if you have insurance that your insurance will pay for, like, again, you can hit me up, but I'll just give this to you. There's a number on the back of your insurance card. You call it. It's typically a 1-800 number, and you say to them, hey, I'm looking for a behavioral health specialist in network, right? And so you ask them to give you a list, and then you just pick up the phone and you call, hey, do you accept my insurance, right? And if so, you can schedule an appointment and you can go. And I will always tell you that it is relational. And so if you find yourself going to your therapist and you don't like them, you don't feel like there's a connection, you don't feel like they get you, stop seeing them, okay? And go find someone that you feel that is helpful to you, that is helpful and can help you, right? Because you do have to know, like, and trust your therapist. So there's that. Journal about it. I would say that too, right? Sometimes it's better to just get it out. And at least then when you get it out, you can have something that you can go to your pastor or to your therapist to go with. And, right, if you don't have either of those, but you want to talk to a life coach over here, right, you can hit me up. You can get into my DM, or you can send me a message on my website, www.sherelleevanstillery.com. And so send me a message and we can begin to talk about how possibly I could help you with what you're going through. And so the other thing that I also wanted to point out, another thing that you could do, right, in helping you, because maybe you're like, oh, Sherelle, I don't know how having an absentee parent, how that affects me. All right, here's what you can do. Also, a little assessment, right? Go to your trusted friends and family, and you could ask them, hey, I've been thinking about how, my relationships are, or just how I'm showing up in the world. And, do you think that having an absentee parent in my life affects me, right? You can ask them, because your friends can see things that you can't see. I feel like it's like your blind spot. Sometimes, we need assistance in order to see that. And so check with, again, but they have to be your handy dandy, trusted, tribe member. You know what I'm saying? And that can be family members, though. It can be your family member. It can be your mom. It can be your dad, your aunts, grandparents, things of that nature. And they could, and then, you could ask them, hey, do you think, what do you think of my relationships, or so on and so forth? And just be open to that, and don't get defensive. Just listen, you know? And it's just worth checking out, you know what I'm saying? So there's that. And again, like, I just wanted to share, if you are going through, any of these situations, or you find yourself like, yep, this checks, that checks, this doesn't, so on and so forth. You're not alone, right? I just shared with you all the things that I think, have affected me, growing up and, into my adulthood, things that I too had to, explore. I had to check in with myself and go, let me see, what about this? And so you're not alone, right? You're not special in that you're the only person that is experiencing these things. And you could be experiencing a couple other things, you know what I'm saying, that maybe we didn't discuss. But again, if you'd like to discuss, we always can. And so I just want to thank you guys for joining in and chit-chatting with me and listening to me. I hope that I was helpful. So, next week, what we're going to be talking about? We are going to be talking about men. And are we looking to them to rescue us, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. And if you've got any topics that you would like to discuss, well, please get it again in this DM, or again, hit me up on my website and send me a message and go, hey, Sherelle, I think I want to talk about this. We can do it. All right. So until next week, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.